Horns Up, Talking Texas podcast. Josh Fisher, Alexander, Toss Minoctopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Crider, and the Quan Cosby. We're here to talk some Texas football. It's a bye week, so get your horns up because here we go. Horns Up, Talking Texas podcast. Before we hopped on the mic live, Toss wanted us to air it out, which ironically was something we did a little too much of in our last game against Oklahoma State. And we have to get into that. We have to look at that game. We have to look at the season as a whole, because now is a point of reflection. We have to look at the season coming up. And now, realistically, now that the playoff, any chance of the playoff is dashed, our Big 12 chances now are in serious trouble. And we need a lot of things to happen, which ultimately probably was the biggest goal for the season. We now have to look at the season in a more realistic lens. And we do want to get into the Oklahoma State game, which had some unfortunate moments. I would say for me, though, to start, it was as frustrating as it was. I'm a little relieved in the sense that now we can be more honest with ourselves of where we're at. And to look at that, we're 8 games in and have already tallied our total wins from last year. It's pretty good. It's not bad. Like, it could be a lot worse. The biggest downside I would say for me in looking at these games is in an Oklahoma State game, you're up going into the fourth quarter. You're up at halftime. You're on the road. This is by no means an easy game. We knew going into this was a tough game.
Yeah, number 11 team in the nation.
Exactly.
That's the thing no one's talking about. They were ranked higher and we're on the road.
Us being favored was a little far-fetched, a little presumptuous.
Well, us being favored because they thought Sanders wasn't going to play.
Yes. True.
We all thought that. And that's the only reason we were favored.
Yeah, I think the biggest, I'll throw some numbers out at you guys, and these are the biggest concerns, just kind of narrowing in on that game. Our third down, they weren't uber efficient in third down. They didn't go for a single fourth down play, thank God, because we know how that would have gone. Our third down, we were 3 of 17. Which was piss poor. We were 19 of 49 in the air. The biggest discrepancy for me, and having been up the entire game, we ran for 204, but we rushed 32 times. Toss and I and Nick were talking recently about it. Roshan was pretty much expunged from the game from a running standpoint. We ran the ball 32 times to our 49 passes in a game where we predominantly led. And then the ultimate, which, you know what? And I don't think I do this. I don't think on the show we as a foursome. Quartet. I don't want to go there. Thank you. Quartet as a quartet don't really do this very often. But I just can't wrap my head around the fact that we had 14 penalties for 119 yards, and they had as many penalties as we as a quartet had on Saturday. A big fat 0. I can't understand how that worked. I can't wrap my head around it. But those are some really glaring numbers to look at. And I know we gave 41 points, but by all intents and purposes, in my eyes, I actually found the defense played pretty solid and got some stops on third down here and there. And this is a very potent
especially
offense.
In the second half.
Yeah, and for a very potent offense on their home field. And it's just, again, I'll give you guys the floor, of course. But for me, it was just a culmination in the fact that I'm never upset by the loss as much as I am upset by how we lose.
Yeah. And I want to speak, you brought that up. I very, very rarely talk about penalties and refs publicly. No, behind the scenes, I'm like, and I go back to Nebraska leaving the conference. I go back to A&M leaving the conference. And I've talked to plenty of their fans and they're like, oh, dude, we got a hose all year. And those schools, I'm like, sure, whatever. Especially the Aggies, they find something to whine about. Which, by the way, as much as we're upset, we're not in that position. They're in way worse shape right now. That thing is maybe sinking in the Jimbo space, and they owe them 98, 96, 94, something, $90+ million. But 14-0, and again, I don't even talk about social media very often, but I said it. I've been a part of a team that had the perfect season. We beat Ohio State at home. We beat USC in California, basically at home. We had the perfect season. We beat a team 70-3 and had probably 7 penalties. We have never No. That was Colorado in the Big 12
Oh,
championship.
gotcha.
In the Big 12 championship, we beat them in the Big 12 championship, 70-3, and had penalties. So for any team on the planet to have 0, come on, guys. Like, this is getting a little
Suspicious.
It's like in every game, I laugh because the teams that don't like us, oh, Texas get all the calls. I'm like, oh, you even paying attention?
Yeah,
So
quite the contrary.
I'll say that on that. But a few things to talk about in rewatching the game. The thing that's happening in Austin a lot on talk radio is we should have pulled Quinn. We should have put Hudson. I'm gonna be real, man. I'm still struggling with that. I don't know that we should have pulled Quinn. I do feel like we should have ran the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you got a lead on that level, when you have Bijan, you have Roche, you have these guys absolutely balling. I do feel like we should have ran more screens that are a lot easier passes if the guy's off. I do feel like there's plays to be run that will make it easier than our norm.
Right.
But I'm gonna be honest, I still am not there with kind of the local media saying they should have pulled him, because that was the guy's first road game. The other ones, we've seen Card. I love Card as a person. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a pretty good player. But when he lost to Tech, you were saying we should have we wish Quinn was healthy. And so it's like, it's a lot to unwrap, to figure out in that game. But like y'all started off with, we beat their butt in the first half because we were running all over their ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would have liked to seen a lot more of that versus 50 passes from a guy that pass one was off.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my 2 cents.
I think there's a lot of armchair head coaches out there.
Yeah, especially in Longhorn Nation.
Good Lord. It's sexist. We're used to it. But I resonate with what you said. I was telling Josh this during the game, after the game, that they should have gotten more screens. They should have gotten more swing passes. They should have gotten more slant routes so Quinn can find his groove more, because the game plan just looked like air it out. Maybe Xavier will be down there and he'll run under the ball. And he overthrew Xavier so many times. His completion percentage was 39%. I mean, that is staggeringly low.
It was even worse when he was targeting Xavier. He was 4
right. And like,
he had so many targets.
We're talking about the wind too, right? Like, but Sanders figured it out with the wind, right? Like, our kickers were able to kick with the wind. Their kicker missed 1 field goal. Like, you're telling me that?
Yeah,
exactly. So like, you're telling me that like Quinn can't make an easy throw? I mean, he missed Xavier multiple times that are wide open. We had touchdowns that were taken away, basically. And then to your point on the referees, I mean, I was thinking about this to myself, that those referees work for the Big 12. Like, with OU and Texas leaving, that's like taking money out of their pockets almost.
Bro, that is taking money out of their pockets. Before they got those other teams, they were like, what we're talking about now with the Pac-12, we're like, is that league going to be a league? That same conversation was happening in the Big 12.
Yep. It's like the employee that put in its 2 weeks notice and the boss gives them the crappy shifts to finish out the rest of their work schedule.
Yeah. Like, are they going to do the good work or not? Like, probably that's the time where they, lick a couple stamps and mail the old boy in.
Yeah.
I mean, I texted you guys, I think after the game, Quinn hadn't attempted more than 100 passes this season going into that game. He's a redshirt freshman. He has not played a lot of college football. He was an incredible quarterback in high school. We know that from his composite rankings. We know that because he played at South Lake Carroll. But he has to learn a lot on the field, and I think that was pretty evident to me. I felt like, I know we've praised him for his pro style throws, the arm angles, the deep ball, being able to touch passes, the laser, all of it. It's all there. I think he didn't push himself enough to create for himself. He stayed in the pocket a lot that game, and our big boys up front gave him a lot of time. They also gave him a lot of gaps in lanes that were available for him to run.
Which you saw at the end of the game when he got the penalty.
Right. And he had 1 carry. I hope that Sark sees some of this and pushes Quinn to, get him out of the pocket more, get him mobile, use his legs, utilize him as a threat there. And there'll be less pressure for him to nail every single throw that he makes when he's when he's in the tackle box. That was one thing I'd like to see him kind of take a step forward and in the games ahead and grow from, because he does have great legs. Like he can really use them as much as Hudson can run. So can Quinn. We've seen it, right? He's got that initial burst that guys in the NFL that we love so much who can throw and run. He's got that skill set. I would have, you mentioned Roschon had 5 carries, but he had 70 something yards on the ground, right? He had a 30+ yard run,
52 yarder,
52 yarder,
52 for touchdown.
Yeah. So I think I'd love to, going forward, see him and Bijan both get work early so that it's not 20 carries in the first half for Bijan. And then at that point, like, we don't want to give him another 20 carries in the second half because we're worried about overworking this kid. You have 2 very competent running backs. Obviously, most of the rushes should go to Bijan. They should go Bijan's way, but get him involved, get Roschon involved early, get Keelan involved early, who we all love. You have so many talented playmakers on this team. Like, it's tough, right? Like, there's so many, there's almost too many mouths to feed at a certain point. But I just felt like we got into the second half and I could see the coaches saying, look, we've already run Bijan, 20+ times this game. And if you're not willing to commit and run him 40 times in a game, then, you have to change things prior to the third and fourth quarter to account for that.
Well, I didn't think you need to run him. And you teed up Nick for his boy Keelan, who, Nick, that was like one of the first things you said coming into, the Monday morning quarterback session in the office, not to steal your thunder, was why didn't we get Keelan involved more? And you bring up first of all, you bring up the swing pass and, give a quick shout out to my old man. He literally had texted me, why can't we swing it to Bijan in the flat? Like, why can't we just do that? And moments later, he did that. Boom, touchdown. Like, and certain things, like, yeah, there are a lot of mouths to feed. It's a great point. But I look at our personnel. Bijan had 1 reception. Jordan Whittington had 1 reception.
Well, I have a big problem with that.
Exactly. Yeah, please, Q.
Yeah. Well, 2 things. One, I want to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Because I also said, why didn't we run more in the second half? But what if OK State made the adjustment and loaded the box and had man on man, which we should murder man to man. But this is where, on one hand, I'm trying to play devil's advocate. On the other one, you freaking killed it because Worthy is not the only man beater. When I rewatched that game, Jordan Whittington is murdering the man out there. Like, the dude is so wide open on so many plays, and I'm just like, that's when it goes back to our QB being young, because for some reason, for the first time, it looked like he was predetermining where he was going with the ball. And that's clearly going to be a problem in so many layers, in so many ways. And so I do feel like they loaded the box and said, hey, where we were saying, hey, we saw he was off from the first throw. I think Gundy and his crew was like, we are not going to let Bijan and Roschon and Keelan beat us. We're going to load the box. We're going to have 8 in the box, 7, 8 in the box. We're going to make this freshman throw the ball on the road. And he did, clearly. He threw it 49 times, but it didn't work out for us. So I guess more of the thoughts about that piece of it is, as easy as it sounds, but if we're outnumbered in the box every time, that's not going to work. You have to make certain adjustments. But that's when I go back to easier throws, short crossing routes, slants,
which is Whittington's MO. He would have had that's his
give
MO.
him the ball and let him get yacked. Jay Witt, I'm not saying he's Bijan with the ball, but Jay Witt is very good at making guys miss. Give him the ball at 4 yards down, he's probably going to make someone miss and get 16, 17, 20, house it. And
that's
so
Keelan too.
That's Keelan too. You're exactly right.
Every time Keelan touches the ball, or every time Keelan's even in on a play on special teams, he makes a huge play. I don't know why he's not on the field more.
Yeah, he's a stud. Like, there's no, like, Whittington, like a wise man once said, he's like a Thunder Percy Harvin. And I think that was, I thought that was a great,
I like that.
Thank you. That
I
was
like
me.
that.
He's giving
That was-
himself
Percy was
some
my
credit.
days. Yeah.
That was
like
me.
Played
That
against
was me.
Percy too.
That
The
was,
wise
dude, that
man.
was me many moons ago. I don't know if you. That was like one of our first shows we did together, way back in the
Well, and then
the day.
Billingsley and Sanders. Now Sanders
Yeah.
just screw up with the drop at the end, but Billingsley made a play. I mean, to y'all's point, we have some dudes out there.
Yeah,
But those
Billingsley's getting
dudes are-
worked in.
Yeah,
This
but those
always,
dudes,
for me, kind of just goes back to, and correct me if I'm wrong, give me your opinion here, Q. I think that Sark needs to stop calling the plays. I think that he needs to let an offensive coordinator completely focus on the offense so he can look at the whole construct of our team, right?
You're adamant
Because
about
when
this.
the offense is off the field, then his mind is checked into the rest of the game. And okay, what are we doing on defense? There's not a ton of time for him to prepare and make those in-game corrections, right? And you talk about it in the locker room too, right? You only have so much time to make your adjustments with the offense. Then you got to go over to special teams, and you got to go over to the defense when you're the head coach. Let an offensive play caller come in there, and that's be his only job. I mean, you're the head coach of a huge university. I don't know many head coaches these days that call the plays.
if I'm being real about one that's done it successfully, everyone wants to kind of anoint Lincoln Riley as the one guy that's doing it successfully. And by the way, he some people are questioning even the Utah game. They're like, some of those calls were really suspect, i.e. USC also leaving that conference. But I actually have not thought about that. I will be very real about that. I do feel like there are certain roles. I do feel like UT has enough going on that it's really damn hard to be both.
Yeah.
Like it is really hard to be both. You know, some people touted Coach Brown as the CEO. By the way, Nick Saban is the GOAT. He's not calling plays. He's not saying I'm so good. I'm the guru. See, Nick Saban's like, I don't need to be the guru. I'm gonna bring gurus in, and we're just gonna kick everybody's ass and win championships all the time.
But
And I'm gonna
Sark
make
is
more
a
money than
guru,
anybody else.
though.
He-
You're right. He then needs to find the guy that he can trust.
Exactly.
But it's
Hey,
not. It's a lot easier said than done.
Hey, Applewhite, you know, I think they'd be pretty damn good together.
I mean, you just need to run his offense.
Yeah,
You don't have to
he
do.
could
You
have-
know, he has the offense.
he could have every ounce of influence whatsoever, but have a full-time guy. And by the way, you're the head dude. You got that mic. If you have a play that you think is going to be the perfect play call the plays 20% of the time,
Exactly.
except for 100% of the time.
Exactly. He's got full say, right? At the end of the day, it's his team. Look, there's probably hundreds of analysts that have coached under him in his career, right? There's probably a handful, dozens of coordinators that he's coached with, position coaches that probably could do this job as well, that understand his system, that he trusts. Maybe it's time to go after one of those guys that has proven some success without him, that still knows the philosophy. Bring him over as the offensive coordinator for the Texas Longhorns. Who's going to turn down that position?
No one.
Yeah.
Because
No.
we're paying him $1 million plus.
I mean, you look at San Francisco, right? And McDaniel now is the head coach for the Dolphins. He was an incredible offensive coordinator for the 49ers under one of the best offensive-minded head coaches in the NFL,
For
Kyle
sure,
Shanahan.
undoubtedly.
It's
Yeah.
not necessarily, it's never just one guy, right? And look who Saban brings in. Look who's the offensive coordinator there. Look who's the defensive coordinator there. Look what their experience is, their resumes. So I'm with it. Like, I think obviously like what we do on offense in certain games is truly spectacular. And so much of that is coming from Sark's mind. I definitely think that all four of us are on the same page in the sense that we believe in Sark. We ride with Sark, and
He's our guy.
Yeah,
I've been arguing all week.
It's a shame that, like, you know, one of these type of losses happens to us again, and people come out of the woodwork and they just immediate reactions. Obviously, you're emotional. You say things. You don't necessarily always mean them. Sometimes you do. Q, you got into it with
that.
Yeah, on
A guy
Twitter.
who,
Yeah.
Hey,
You got into a Twitter barb?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Kudos
please.
to him, dude. He came back and said, okay, maybe I overreacted a little bit. He absolutely said that. He tweeted it out. And of course, the court of public opinion, he got hammered for that too. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
No, he went back and watched the film and was like, holy shit, Quinn never misses this pass. He actually is that, because he was like, oh, is Sark the guy? I do think Sark is the guy. And what I said was, this wasn't a true head coaching problem or even offensive coordinator problem. This is an execution problem. And the plays were there. For the life of me, I don't know why Quinn was that off. It's damn near freaky for what we've seen him do, but he was. So my argument was, me personally, y'all know me by now. I think my job as a player was to make coaches right in a lot of situations. Colt, throw that son of a bitch up. It's a 50-50 ball. I need to catch that. I need to make them right. The coach looks good. The quarterback looks good. Everybody looks good. I took pride in when the ball was thrown my way, making the play. And unfortunately, that just wasn't the way it went down last Saturday.
Well, clearly, obviously, the throws were errant, right? The passes were errant themselves, but I also felt like it was pretty apparent that they were not always on the same page. And I'm talking specifically with Quinn and Worthy. Hugh, if you're in the locker room at halftime, from a receiver standpoint, what are you saying to your guy? I don't know if it's his confidence was shaken, Quinn, or if they had a bad week of practice or something, or like things just weren't working. Obviously we talked about the wind, and that's having an effect. There's all these added factors, but what are you saying to your QB to kind of get him focused and get him back on the same page? Because obviously if you're not talking to each other and you're giving each other the cold shoulder, it only gets worse. Right?
Oh, and I hope that's not the case. So
yeah,
one, I'll go back to this and I'll tell you a prime example. And that's why I say it's an execution situation. My last catch of my career, I caught the ball in the Fiesta Bowl with Ohio State. And so they actually ran 0 blitz in the first half. And Colt threw the ball to Brandon Collins. Brandon Collins was great for us, but Brandon Collins got a little scared because he was going in the middle. And the blitz beater was a slant, which is actually what I ran. And both inside guys were to run slants, beat the safety, boom, there's nobody behind. But in the first half, he threw it to Brandon Collins. He got scared, a guy coming. Brandon Collins missed the ball. We didn't get the first down. We had to punt. So at halftime, I had a little conversation with Colt. I was like, bro, really? I was like, we literally watched this on film, and we said if they run 0 blitz, we're going to absolutely murder them if they do that. And then you're going to go to Brandon Collins' side? And Colt was, again, laughing, and he's like, I got a cue. So they didn't run that blitz again until 26 seconds left. So the reason I say it's execution is because it's the same play. It's the same blitz. On one, Colt made the decision to go to the freshman. On the next one, he made a decision to go to the senior. We caught the ball. We win the game. We all look like heroes, but it's the same freaking situation. So where everybody's getting on Sark's butt, I'm like, you can call the right play and have them very prepared, but where they go with the ball, you can't control sometimes. No. And so that's why I say it's an execution thing, but you got a redshirt freshman versus a redshirt junior and Colt and a 26-year-old senior and me. And so that's where it's gonna be growing pains.
Yeah. Right.
From that standpoint. And that's what we continue to forget. And you started even earlier, Josh. Not that we're some moral victory guys, but we are already at the amount of wins we had last year. And I do truly think we're going to grow in this bye week and win at least a couple, if not 3. Maybe it would be so freaking awesome if we won out. But I do know that we can win every game going forward.
Right. You win every game that we played this year. Every game
we really could. We could have beat Bama. We could have beat everybody on the planet.
Yeah,
but that's a whole nother conversation.
I don't think, to be honest, when at the very beginning when you said we were only favorites in this game because Sanders was not supposed to play, I don't think that's true. I think if he played and he was healthy, we still would have been favored by 1 or 2 points. But I'm
gonna tell you why I said that. Is because look at our road record. Our road record, it's awful.
Horrible.
It is horrible. In the last 4 to 5 years, we might win. Say that's 20 games. I think we've lost like 12, 13, 14 of those games on the road. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only reason I say that. I do feel like we have a better team, better players, better coaching staff, and all the above. But for some reason, and that's what I want to get into, is the psyche of our players right now on the road when they're hated. At home, our crowd's gotten crazier. They're awesome. We talked about it last podcast and a few more. But on the road, I'm fascinated at the especially second half anxiety we're getting and ultimately pissing down our leg. And that's why I say that. When I circled Okie State, when I circled K-State, when I circled all these road games, we have the same guys that kick butt, that absolutely went toe-to-toe and should have beat Bama. But on the road, I do not know what's going on. It is a whole nother level of anxiety that's just not being, I can't put, we loved it. The
It's a bad
Stormtrooper,
case
as
of being
Craig said,
homesick.
it is, dude. It's so freaking weird. We love DKR, but being hated on the road, it was synergistic. We wanted to shut them up, kick their butt, and I just don't see that. Whereas when we wanted it, these guys seem to, I just don't embrace it on the level that we did. It's almost like Twitter bullies, social media people coming at them, and them just kind of getting in a fetal position. They continue to crumble on the road, and that's psychological. They're still phenomenal athletes, phenomenal people, but psychologically on the road, we have massive issues, and that's not a coaching problem. Sark's the same guy he was at home against Bama. He's the same guy he was the next game, same guy he was this year versus Oklahoma, last year versus Oklahoma when he gave it up. But the inconsistency, we keep changing coaches. What is the difference? We have to find a way to get over that psychologically. I almost equate it with a catcher, a phenomenal catcher who can't throw it back to the pitcher. He's the same guy who balls out that other, he was a Golden Glove catcher, and now he has a mental block that he can't even throw it back to the pitcher.
Chuck Knobloch.
Chuck Knobloch. That's what I'm putting. I'm almost putting it in that same mindset as far as what we are the second half on the road.
I watched that in the Astros. The Astros were playing the Yankees. I watched Maldonado, the Astros catcher. I think it was the last game where they sealed the deal and swept them. They eventually ended up winning that game, but they were up 4-3, and the Yanks came back in an inning and tied it 4-4 because Maldonado, the catcher, he could not catch the ball.
Dude,
it kept popping out of his glove again and again and again. And eventually, you know what's in his psyche. It's
in his psyche.
It's I am going to drop this ball.
That's
the only thing he's thinking about.
That's all he's thinking about.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why I nerd out on sports. But damn it, I don't need it to be my team.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally.
It's been our team for too long.
Was it Johnny Cueto against the Pirates? Now I'm geeking as well. It was like Johnny Cueto against the Pirates, where he was so loud in Pittsburgh that he had to step off the mound.
He balked,
and he was maybe a balk, and the next play he gave up a home run. Like you knew, like he was like totally like out of his, like they threw his rhythm off. Like he was so toast. I think for us, with things like I want to see the defense continue to take steps. Yeah. So I think we have. Like I really think, by and large, our defense outside of the Tech game. And I'll give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. Our offense absolutely flatlined in the second half of that game, and they were on the field for God knows how long, and that does play a factor. Like our defense has grown since last year, which is such a knife in the thigh, a thorn in the thigh. Like,
Dio was great in this game.
He shows that he's been showing up. I think I
thought the DBs were everywhere. I thought they were swarming.
Yeah.
They were tons of PBUs.
We don't miss a lot of tackles like we used to.
It's the best 41-point loss on the defensive side I've ever seen.
True, but I think we had like 20-some. First game, we had 20-some missed tackles. We actually had 20-some missed tackles this game. So, yes, in theory, I do feel like our defense is way better than we have been and all that. But that kind of factors into showing a little bit.
There was that one run.
But ultimately, you're not giving your defense a real shot when you have 30 incompletions in this game, and that every single one stops the clock.
Bro, that game was so long. It was over 4 hours long, and I was looking.
That first half was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It was crazy.
I was so hammered by the third quarter.
I'm about to say, I fell asleep right after this game, and I probably needed to, but I fell asleep for a long time because it was such a long game.
I mean, I was so hammered after this game that I ate lunch and dinner like pretty in the same time window.
It was a pretty pretty bad weekend of sports for me because I'm a Padres fan, Q. So right after that loss, I had to go watch the Padres lose, and then they lost the next day. And I'm a Chargers fan; they lost. But the one glimmer of hope that came out of this weekend that I want to get into because we talked about airing it out.
Yeah,
our boy Sam Ellinger is a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yes, man.
How we feeling?
It's so I want to tell y'all about this because it goes back to and I'm sure he's cool with this conversation. Yeah, I remember Sam came to Texas OU. And I'm looking down because I shot him a text and I was like, man, good to see you. You need to come to a home game. And so when I went down there and we were talking about it, talking to CDC and all those crazies down there. I was like, bro, what the hell? When is they going to give you? I mean, bro, you were literally the number one quarterback in preseason. And he laughed. He's like, you know what, dude? I just want a shot, man. He's like, I can't wait. He's like, there's been kind of close deals where I can get a shot and I really want a shot at starting and showing what I can do. I said, man, I agree. I don't know how they don't give you one. Matty Ice has a decent history, but dude, you balled out.
MVP.
The team freaking responds when you're in there. And so then, boom, we get the information. And first thing I do, I was like, there's that shot, baby. I was like, let's go get him. And he put yes, sir, with the strong emoji and said, I'm so damn fired up. So kudos to Sam. I'm
starting in my fantasy league.
Dude,
I didn't get him in a fantasy league. I'm in a 2 QB league where all my quarterbacks are just absolutely out for the year. And I was like going into the year, I'm like, we're riding Trey Lance, boys. That was a very unfortunately short-lived, saying. The thing was, I'll send you the tweet, Q. One of our boys in the office who's like covers college football, like is like into recruiting. He's sitting over, you actually can look at him right now. He's like on about how Ellinger sucks. And I'm like, dude, what?
He's like, he's a glorified fullback. I'm like, come on.
I was like, the guy, he's like, you're not giving me any.
Did you not see the dimes he was throwing in preseason?
Right?
Yeah. First of all, yes, I'm not even worried about his arm. Here's the thing I know about Sam. And he brought up in his argument brought up Jalen Hurts. Like, I'm glad he brought up Jalen Hurts because that's the exact guy I'd love to look at. The thing about Jalen Hurts, does he have a Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes arm? Hell no. Does Sam? No. Does Sam always? There were times as Texas fans, and we've been on both sides of the coin. We are watching a game, and I'll point to that Texas Tech game way back, maybe two years ago, where we had the onside kick and all of that, where Sam Ellinger willed that game to the end and won us that game. Where a guy like Jalen Hurts, is that before we knew you? That must have been before we knew you. Jesus, that's wild. Like, knew you personally, obviously. The guy like Jalen Hurts may not be the best thrower in the NFL, but he will that there's a reason that he's the ultimate competitor.
Win, baby, win.
He and Bama led them. Tua gets credit for the national championship game, but he got him there. And then he stayed with the team. The ultimate team player stayed with the team for Bama, came in on that SEC championship game when Tua got knocked out, wins them that game, goes to OU as a winner there. Sam is a competitor and a winner, and I wish there was some metric to measure that. There's not, but I know when he is in the game that he gives them a more dynamic chance.
What
Matty Ice, noodle arms.
Q as a wide receiver, or talking with like the big boys, and same thing for you, Nick. What's the one play a quarterback can make that gets guys on his side better than any other play?
I mean, it kind of just depends. I mean, for me, like, it's not like even like one specific play. It's kind of just like a string of good passes, right? Like, if he's just 5 for 5, 5 for 5, 6 for 6, 7 for 7, just in one drive, like, that's pretty electric. Obviously, if you're a running quarterback and you're breaking multiple tackles, like, that's electric. But I mean, I guess the deep ball too, like being able just to throw a dime and just drop it right in there.
I guess I made the assumption that, like, from a macro standpoint, from like winning a team over, like, I look at a guy like Josh Allen, who I think it's fair to say that the entire locker room loves that guy. And
because
one thing,
he pulls the ball down, he jumps over a guy, he makes that run. It's a broken play. He runs it for 20 yards and he balls out and he gets up fired up.
And I feel like he puts it all on the line for his team, right? He's not He's not sitting in the pocket being like, where's the flag? Where's the roughing the passer? Like, I'm the quarterback. You can't touch me, stuff like that.
So that's when you asked that question, that's all I was thinking about. I was like, it's really a mindset. It's a way. It's funny because unfortunately I don't use this as much because it's been so overused, but it's a swagger. It's a certain QB swagger. And as much as Brady is the GOAT, unfortunately, Brady's losing that a little bit.
Yeah, and we know our boy Sam's got it.
Sam has it. Sam is a competitor. He's a winner. He has an edge. I'll tell you another dude. A lot of people hated Baker early on. I actually didn't mind early Baker because I saw it as a chip and I saw him making plays in a swaggish. Now, no, Baker's just is different.
I think he's a bit of a head case.
He's got a
I think
mental
he
block.
got hurt.
Lately, it's a different piece. And by the way, Brady had that swag. Brady's gonna forever be the GOAT because of what he's always done. But everything's come to an end. That's the way it works. But I think to your point with Allen, to Pat Mahomes, when they put the camera on them, never seem worried. Everybody on the freaking team, offense, defense, special teams, and fan base, say the look he has in his eye is what I want my leader to be. So I even take it, it's playing, it's throwing, it's a leadership ability. It's that dude. It's Allen. It's why they're balling. It's Pat. It's why they're balling. And we all know, you go back to as crazy as it seems during Sam's era, it almost talks even more to kind of the situation he was in. The games he willed them even to being close in, the games he willed in to have to beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. That dude, to y'all's point, is gonna give you a chance to win football. He's gonna prepare the best way. He's gonna be tough as hell, tough as nails. He's going to outwork everyone. He's gonna outprepare everyone. And he's gonna try to run somebody over to get you fired up because that's what he does. Yeah. And so that little kind of swag piece to it, the leadership aspect of it, dude, that's what got me fired up.
I mean,
it's funny. Colt could throw the hell out of the ball, but Colt took off running and made the right play at the right time. It wasn't about him throwing it to me. It was about him getting us 3 to 4 more plays.
He's a from a running quarterback standpoint, like Sam is a diver, not a slider.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, lowering his shoulder.
And I watched
looking for contact.
Exactly. I watched the Cardinals play that one game, and at the very end of the game, Kyler slid and was short of the first down marker. Then the time management stuff happened. I think this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I know, like,
you got to pick and choose, obviously.
Of course. But when push comes to
Kyler's
shove,
always been a baseball player and a football body. Yeah. He runs out of bounds with 1 yard to go. He slides early.
I will say that Sam is made for the NFL. I think that he's gonna take the most of his opportunities. He's got the best receivers he's ever gonna have. Pittman's a great wide receiver. He's got Paris Campbell out there. There's some really good receivers. He's got Jonathan Taylor to give the rock to. I really believe that the shift in the NFL to these athletic style quarterbacks like Lamar, like Josh Allen, like Jalen Hurts, like all these guys, that's what Sam kind of is, right? If he can work on his accuracy a little bit, which they'll do for him, of course. Like Jalen, his accuracy has gone way up since he entered the league. He might be okay. So he better make the most of his opportunity. I know he will.
Well, and I think he did in the preseason, dude. He was, again, completion percentage, QB rating. That wasn't about him running the ball. That was about him, and he's completing it with not always the starters. And some could say, well, he was going against this. No, dude. At the end of the day, my little man plays freaking flag football, and you got to complete the ball wherever you are, who against you can. And he was doing it in a very high level. And at the time he got in pretty early. There was a time where he started actually, because I was like, I think we even talked about, I was like, damn, is Sam going to actually start over Matty Ice? Because he got some very early play time in the first half or for the first half, and he still balled out. So I think at the end of the day, their coach knows what's up. Their coach is like, we've seen what we've seen. We know who we paid. I know that NFL is political as it gets, but I'm sorry, dude. We actually are in a position, especially in this division, where we get the right guy in there, we win this division.
Well,
Yes.
We have a chance to make the playoffs.
100%
3-3 and
that,
1.
but
They're 500.
100%
They
that,
win.
but
That's the
also
thing you got to look at. They're making this decision at a time that they want to make the playoffs.
100% that, but also Frank Reich could be coaching for his job right now. So if he strikes gold, putting Sam in, he looks like a genius.
Yeah. Which says a lot for what he thinks about Sam.
Right.
He's literally letting his career ride on Sam Ellinger right now.
Hey, look, you know what?
I would. He's that type of dude. I'm gonna be honest.
I think we can
he's that type of dude to me.
100%.
In the same way that when Colt steps in as a starting quarterback, as he's been called to his entire NFL career. Guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's out of the league now, like Sam is one of those guys where if he wins this first game against the Commanders, none of us are going to be surprised. Especially not these four guys looking at each other right now.
But
like,
that's the
Our boy
tumbleweed.
Joe DeLeon will.
Yeah, whatever. He can kick rocks. That's like the snowball effect, though. He gets one win under his belt. You know that's what his confidence. It's all he just needs an inch, dude.
A little taste. That's all.
He's like, he reminds me of like in a certain way at his floor, Gardner Minshew. And Gardner's not the perfect quarterback, and he's not a starting quarterback, but at the same time, a guy like Gardner Minshew versus a guy like Scott Tolzien or whatever, some of the other backups we've seen come in the past, a guy like Gardner Minshew comes in, at the very minimum, he'll do whatever it takes to will his way in. He's a backup.
A guy like Colt McCoy.
Yeah, backup quarterback on a winning
backup.
team. A backup on a winning team versus a backup on like a team is a big difference.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well,
So
this is the thing. We've been talking about Texas football, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about the second half, them semi pissing down their leg. That's not Sam at all.
Mm-mm.
Sam is literally waking up. I got to keep it PG. He's fired up. and he's like, let's freaking go. And that's what's so freaking cool about what he's going to do, how he's going to prepare. And I'm fired up to see him. I think he's going to ball out.
Yeah.
I
Way
think
to end on a positive.
for sure. And I think our guy Quinn, who we were talking so much about, he should watch this game on Sunday because there's a lot he can learn from.
I think he will.
There's a lot he can learn from Sam. He should watch Sam's tape from when he was at UT as well, because that is what I'm looking for. Like, instead of throwing it 20 yards out of bounds because you can get another down and now it's 2nd and 10 or whatever. Okay, but we've got more options. We've got more downs to work with. Take it between the tackles, right up the middle.
Take it and run. Hey, gain 4 yards. Stay ahead of the damn chains. Guess what? Because then you're going to have 2nd or 3rd and 6 versus 3rd and 10. And we all know the data doesn't support the other. And then last but not least, before we take off.
Yeah.
And this is how crazy it is where we are. And y'all have gotten me to do this. Recruiting has gotten me to do this. Arch is balling out, by the way.
Someone said that to me recently.
Dude, and people are like, I don't know. He's hype. He's this. No, they're full of crap. That dude can ball. I've seen a couple of plays and I'm like, ooh, and the only reason I want to mention that is because as much as our fans are going crazy, College Station is, that ship is Titanic-ish.
Yeah, that Jim boat is sinking.
There's somebody that's talking about a great receiver coming here, maybe a lineman or two coming our way. Like
Evan Stewart,
he's still the revenge.
It's getting real over there, dude. And they just had to suspend like 3 other guys, so that ship is rough.
Time to show them how cool Austin is.
Texas fans, let's just keep it in perspective, man.
Yes, sir.
We lost some big ones, but we got to keep it. We're in year 1.5. They're in year 5+ with an extension, and that ship does not look good.
And our quarterback was injured. He's still coming back from an injury. Still, it's not like
that was his first road game in college.
Yeah, we lost a receiver, a guard to start the year. I think things could be a lot worse, but we really need this team to respond on another road game at Kansas State. I'm glad we had this bye week. Could be the kick in the pants to finish the season strong. We'll see you guys next week to cover that game. Josh Fisher, Nikki Snacks Kreider, Alex Tossman, Octosopoulos, and of course, the Quan Cosby. Horns up. We'll see you next time.
Go, baby.